I've always wondered what happens when the guardians of the law become lawless themselves.
They got the letter on Monday. As we speak, they are bringing all the dockets to Spear. So I'm bringing this to the commissioners. This is a person who's not in the police. He already demonstrated, he sent me the copy of the OPs and the likes a year before. And now he's talking about the dismantlement of the units and the dockets that are moving to Spear. This is not what the state asked for, but this is what the magistrate took it upon himself to impose on his members. So by default, it means the operation that they are busy with against the drug cartel must stop immediately.
What happens when a government loses its grip on its police force? What happens when the guardians of the law become lawless themselves? Or when the police force is captured by political factions or the criminal underworld? You know, this is not just a thought experiment. It's an urgent question that we as South Africans need to face today, especially after the alarming allegations by General Mkonazi about a police service that is torn apart by political interference and criminals.
It's outrageous that we have got men who are serving in the South African police service who are still capable of doing things like this.
You know, the beauty about history is that it gives us a lot of lessons. History provides some of the scariest examples of what happens when the line between the protector and the perpetrator begins to disappear. Example 1, it's the Weimar Republic and the Freikorps, Germany 1919. After the devastating World War I, Germany's new Weimar Republic was fragile. To crush communist uprising, the government armed paramilitary ex-soldiers known as the Freikorps, but this was a fatal bargain. The government's control over these groups was weak, allowing them to become violent enforcers for a radical nationalist agenda. They operated outside the law, brutally suppressing any opposition, and they spread terror. This tool, created to enforce order, ultimately fueled instability that paved the way for the Nazi regime. Example 2, Chicago 1968. As the world watched on television, the city's police force went rogue. They responded to anti-war protests, not with control, but with chaos and indiscriminate violence. The police riot, as it was later called, shattered public trust in law enforcement and became a raw symbol of a divided nation. It was a stark lesson. When police operate without restraint, they become agents of oppression, not safety. Example 3. South African police force during apartheid, 1948 to 1994. During apartheid, the South African police force was not a protector of the people. It was an instrument of state oppression. Its primary function was to enforce brutal segregation laws through violence, torture, and intimidation. This wasn't a case of a few bad apples. It was a systematic weaponization of an entire police force against its own people, leaving deep scars that our nation continues to heal today. Example number 4. In recent years, the Syrian civil war shows us what a total collapse looks like. As the government's control fractured, so did the police force. Militia and rogue units began operating with complete impunity. This power vacuum led to extreme violence, war crimes, and absolute breakdown of law and order. When there's no single accountable authority, the person with the biggest gun makes the rules. Example 5, the Gugurahundi in Zimbabwe in the 1980s. Let's move up north, right here, to our neighbors in Zimbabwe, for a chilling lesson in state-sponsored terror. In the 1980s, Robert Mugabe's government unleashed a unit known as the 5th Brigade, operating outside normal military and police command. This force was a political death squad. It descended upon Matebele land in a campaign of unimaginable brutality known as Gugurahundi, killing an estimated 20,000 civilians to crush political opposition. This wasn't policing. It was a state-sanctioned massacre, proving that a loyalist, unaccountable security force is one of the most dangerous weapons a regime can wield against its people. These historical examples aren't just stories. They are case studies that reveal a terrifying pattern. When police go rogue, 3 things inevitably follow. First, the rise of corruption and human rights abuses. When police power is unchecked, it becomes a tool for personal gain. Extortion, bribery, brutality becomes the norm. This isn't just misconduct by rogue policemen. It's a systematic violation of human rights where the badge becomes a license to abuse. Second, political instability. Rogue police units become a weapon in political battles. They can be used by those in power to violently suppress dissent, create a climate of fear, or they can become their own faction, challenging authority of the state itself and fueling widespread unrest. Either way, democracy suffers. And third, the complete breakdown of the rule of law. When there's no accountability, chaos takes over. The law no longer applies to everyone. Justice is bought and sold. Citizens are left with no one to tend to, and society descends into a state where might is right. We look at Germany, Chicago, apartheid South Africa, a painful Zimbabwean past, Syria, but we have to bring it back home. What could this mean to South Africa right now? General Mkhonaz's allegations suggest a police service vulnerable to capture by political forces. If political forces can take charge of the police service, surely criminals are right by the doorstep.
I have decided to put the Minister of Police, Mr. Senzo Mchunu, on leave of absence.
Imagine a South Africa where this capture we're talking about is completely 100%. What would be your reality? It would mean your arrest or freedom depends not on evidence, but on who you know. It would mean powerful criminal syndicates operate openly, protected by the very people who are meant to stop them. It would create a justice system for the connected few, a harsh reality for everybody else. Public trust, already hanging by a thread, would be destroyed completely. Hey, I think that's already happening. Communities would be forced to fend for themselves, leading to a rise in vigilantism. Our democracy, our economy, and the very fabric of our society would be under threat. So how does South Africa prevent total collapse? It requires an act of national will. First, we must demand absolute accountability. This means strengthening independent oversight bodies like IPID, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, and ensure that they are fully funded and free from political interference. Every single officer, from constable on the street to the top brass in the office, must be held to the same standard of law. Second, we need to professionalize the police service from the ground up. This involves better vetting of recruits and weed out criminal elements within the police service, improve training focused on de-escalation and human rights, and provide officers with the right resources they need to do their job effectively and ethically. Maybe we need body cams. It might just be a complicated tender. And finally, we, the people of South Africa, must build a bridge of trust. But that trust isn't given. It must be earned by the police, the judiciary, and all involved through transparent, lawful, and respectful conduct. As citizens, our duty is to remain vigilant, to report corruption, and to demand that our leaders commit to genuine police reform. You see, when a police force stops being a shield for its people and becomes a sword used by political factions or a tool for criminal underworld, the state itself loses its legitimacy. The warnings from history are loud and clear. The question is, are we, as South Africans, paying attention to what's happening in our country? Let's have a conversation in the comment section. And if such content matters to you, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
King David Studio Podcast.